There is a kind of power that doesn't shout, a kind of confidence that doesn't argue, a kind of strength that doesn't need validation. That power is silence. In a world that rewards noise, opinions, and instant reactions, silence has become rare, and therefore powerful. Silence is not the absence of words, it is the presence of wisdom. It is the decision to protect your peace instead of proving a point. There are moments in life where speaking will cost you far more than staying quiet. Moments where words add fuel instead of clarity. Moments where silence becomes your shield, your teacher, and your greatest act of self-respect. Let me share with you 8 situations where silence is not weakness. It is mastery. First, be silent when emotions are high. Anger speaks fast and regrets speak later. When emotions rise, clarity falls. Silence gives you time to breathe, to regain control, and to respond from wisdom instead of wounds. Second, be silent when people misunderstand you on purpose. Some people don't want clarity. They want conflict. Explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you only drains your energy. Silence is how you exit unnecessary battles. Third, be silent in the presence of disrespect. Not every insult deserves a reply. Sometimes the most powerful response is walking away with your dignity intact. Silence says, "I know my worth, and I won't negotiate it." Fourth, be silent about your plans. Growth thrives in quiet spaces. When you announce your plans too early, you invite doubt, opinions, and sabotage. Let results speak. Let success introduce you. Fifth, be silent when gossip is invited. Nothing cheapens your character faster than participating in conversations that don't uplift. Silence keeps your integrity clean and your spirit light. Sixth, be silent when someone is committed to being negative. You cannot heal someone who enjoys their pain. Silence protects you from absorbing energy that doesn't belong to you. Seventh, be silent when you are winning. Victory doesn't need announcements. When you move in silence, you stay focused, grounded, and untouchable. Eighth, be silent when you have nothing kind or useful to say. Words carry weight. Use them intentionally. Silence is sometimes the most compassionate choice. Silence does not mean you lack confidence. It means you have so much confidence that you don't need to prove yourself. A strong person does not react to everything. A wise person chooses what deserves their voice. When you master silence, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, the world listens. Even when you don't speak. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom in its most disciplined form. In a world that constantly pressures you to explain yourself, defend your choices, and react instantly, choosing silence can feel uncomfortable. But the truth is this: your power does not always live in your words. It often lives in your restraint. Knowing when to stay silent is one of the highest forms of emotional intelligence and self-mastery. Many people speak too quickly because they feel the need to prove something. They speak out of fear of being misunderstood, out of a desire for validation, or out of insecurity that silence might make them look powerless. But real power doesn't announce itself. Real power observes. Real power listens. Real power chooses its moments carefully. Silence protects your energy. Every argument you engage in, every unnecessary explanation you offer, and every emotional reaction you give costs you something. It costs focus. It costs peace. It costs clarity. When you stay silent in situations that do not deserve your response, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. You stop bleeding emotional strength in places where there is nothing to gain. Silence also protects your dignity. When emotions are high, words often become weapons. not just against others, but against yourself. Many regrets are born from moments where silence would have served you better than speech. By choosing silence, you avoid saying things you cannot take back. You avoid lowering yourself to levels that do not reflect who you are becoming. Silence allows you to rise above chaos without becoming part of it. There is a deep confidence in silence. When you do not rush to respond, people feel it. When you do not explain yourself unnecessarily, people notice. When you allow others to talk while you remain grounded and composed, your presence speaks louder than words ever could. Silence creates mystery. It creates authority. It shifts the balance of power without a single sentence being spoken. Silence also reveals truth. When you stop talking, you start seeing more clearly. You hear what people really mean, not just what they say. You observe patterns instead of promises. You notice intentions instead of excuses. Silence turns you into a listener, and listeners always have the advantage. The more silent you become, the more information you gain. And information is power. Another reason silence is powerful is that it removes you from emotional manipulation. Some people provoke reactions to feel important, to gain control, or to distract from their own insecurities. When you stay silent, you deny them access to your emotions. You take away their leverage. You show them that you cannot be easily shaken, controlled, or pulled into unnecessary drama. Choosing silence does not mean you lack a voice. It means you respect your voice too much to waste it. It means you understand that not every situation deserves your explanation, your justification, or your emotional investment. Silence is not avoidance. It is discernment. In the journey of personal growth, learning when to stay silent is just as important as learning when to speak. Silence strengthens your self-control. It sharpens your awareness. It elevates your presence. And most importantly, it protects your inner peace. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of strength. And when used wisely, silence becomes one of your greatest tools for growth, confidence, and self-respect. One of the most powerful moments to choose silence is when emotions are running high. Anger, frustration, hurt, jealousy, or disappointment can cloud judgment and weaken self-control. In these moments, words often escape before wisdom has a chance to arrive. Silence, however, creates space. It allows emotions to settle and clarity to rise. A strong personality understands that not every feeling deserves an immediate response. When emotions are intense, the mind shifts into reaction mode. You may feel the urge to defend yourself, explain your side, or strike back with words meant to protect your pride. But words spoken in emotional heat often carry consequences that last far longer than the emotion itself. Silence becomes a shield, protecting you from saying something you cannot take back. It is not weakness. It is emotional intelligence in action. Choosing silence during emotional moments does not mean suppressing feelings. It means postponing expression until you can speak from a place of balance rather than chaos. There is great strength in saying, "I need time," instead of forcing a conversation that may spiral into conflict. Silence gives you time to understand what you are truly feeling and why. It allows you to separate the emotion from the message, the reaction from the response. Silence also changes power dynamics. When emotions are high, many people expect immediate reactions. They expect arguments, tears, explanations, or justifications. When you choose silence instead, you disrupt that expectation. You regain control of the moment. You signal maturity, composure, and self-respect. Often, your calm unsettles chaos more than any argument ever could. In relationships, Silence during emotional intensity prevents unnecessary damage. Heated arguments can create emotional scars, even if apologies come later. Words said in anger have a way of lingering in memory. Silence preserves dignity. It protects connection. It allows conversations to resume later with understanding rather than regret. Healthy communication is not about constant talking. It is about timing, awareness, and respect. Silence also gives you the advantage of observation. When emotions are high, people reveal their true character. They reveal their triggers, intentions, and emotional maturity. By staying silent, you gain insight. You listen without reacting. You learn without escalating. This awareness strengthens your boundaries and sharpens your emotional intelligence. Many people fear silence because they believe it means losing control or losing the argument. In reality, silence often means winning peace. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every comment deserves a reply. Emotional restraint is a form of self-mastery. It shows that you are not ruled by impulses, but guided by wisdom. Silence during emotional moments also strengthens your inner peace. Reacting impulsively drains energy and creates stress. Holding space for calm restores balance. You protect your nervous system. You protect your mental health. You protect your sense of self. Over time, this habit builds a reputation of strength, reliability, and emotional depth. When emotions are high, silence becomes a pause, not an escape. It is a conscious decision to honor yourself and the situation. Later, when emotions cool, your words carry more weight, more clarity, and more respect. People listen differently when you speak from calm rather than chaos. In a world that encourages instant reactions, silence is a rare skill. It is a quiet form of leadership. It shows that you trust yourself enough to wait. You trust your voice enough to speak later. And you trust your strength enough to remain calm when others cannot. Silence when emotions are high is not avoidance. It is wisdom choosing the right moment to be heard. Silence becomes a powerful act of wisdom when emotions are running high. Anger, frustration, hurt, and disappointment have a way of distorting truth and clouding judgment. In those moments, words spoken in haste often become weapons. Not just against others, but against yourself. When you choose silence during emotional triggers, you protect your dignity, your relationships, and your future peace. Anger is a temporary emotion, but the damage caused by angry words can be permanent. A single sentence spoken in rage can destroy trust built over years. It can close doors that took a lifetime to open. Silence, on the other hand, creates space. It gives you the distance you need to process your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Choosing not to speak when you are emotionally charged is not weakness. It is emotional mastery. Many people believe that expressing anger immediately is healthy. But there is a difference between healthy expression and emotional dumping. When emotions are raw, they are unfiltered. Your words may carry accusations, exaggerations, or intentions you do not truly mean. Silence allows clarity to return. It allows your mind to calm, your heart to soften, and your perspective to expand. Silence also prevents regret. Think about how often people say, "I didn't mean it like that," or "I wish I hadn't said that." Those words usually follow moments of emotional reaction. When you pause instead of speaking, you give yourself the gift of foresight. You choose long-term respect over short-term relief. You choose wisdom over impulse. There is power in responding, not reacting. Reaction is emotional and instinctive. Response is intentional and thoughtful. Silence creates the bridge between the two. It transforms chaos into clarity. It allows you to speak later from a place of understanding rather than hurt. When you return to the conversation with calmness, your words carry weight, credibility, and impact. Silence during anger also teaches others how to treat you. It signals emotional maturity. It shows that you are not easily provoked or manipulated. People learn that they cannot control you through emotional chaos. They begin to respect your boundaries, your composure, and your strength. In a noisy world, calm silence commands attention. This does not mean suppressing your feelings forever. Silence is temporary, not avoidance. It is a pause, not a denial. Once emotions settle, expression becomes healthy, constructive, and effective. You can communicate your feelings clearly, without blame or bitterness. You can speak truth without causing harm. In moments of anger, silence becomes your shield. It protects your integrity, your peace, and your relationships. It allows you to rise above the moment instead of being consumed by it. Mastering silence during emotional triggers is one of the strongest forms of self-control you will ever develop. When you learn to stay silent in anger, you gain authority over your emotions, and that is true power. One of the most powerful forms of silence is the silence you choose when emotions are running high. Anger, hurt, jealousy, fear, or frustration can hijack your voice and turn your words into weapons, not just against others, but against yourself. In emotionally charged moments, silence is not weakness. It is wisdom in action. When emotions take control, clarity disappears. Words spoken in anger often carry regret because they are driven by impulse rather than intention. Silence, in these moments, creates space. It gives you time to breathe, to ground yourself, and to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. That pause can protect relationships, reputations, and inner peace. Emotionally triggered silence is a sign of self-mastery. It means you recognize that not every feeling needs immediate expression, and not every reaction deserves a voice. By staying silent, you prevent temporary emotions from creating permanent damage. You allow logic to return, perspective to form, and wisdom to guide your next move. This kind of silence is especially important during arguments. When voices rise and egos collide, silence becomes a stabilizing force. It disarms conflict. It shifts power. It often makes the other person reflect, because calmness in chaos stands out. Silence communicates confidence and emotional maturity without saying a single word. Choosing silence when triggered also strengthens your inner world. It teaches emotional discipline. It reminds you that you are not controlled by your emotions. You observe them, learn from them, and choose how to act. This self-awareness builds resilience and deep self-respect. Silence does not mean suppression. It means timing. You are allowed to express your feelings later, when your mind is clear and your heart is calm. True strength lies in knowing when to speak and when to wait. In emotionally charged moments, silence is your shield. It protects your dignity, preserves your peace, and keeps you aligned with your highest self. One of the most important times to remain silent is when speaking would cost you your peace. Not every situation deserves your explanation, your defense, or your emotional energy. Silence, in these moments, is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is self-control. It is emotional intelligence in action. When you learn to protect your peace through silence, you step into a higher level of personal power. Many people feel compelled to respond to everything. Every comment, every criticism, every provocation feels like an invitation to react. But reacting impulsively often leads to regret. Words spoken in emotional moments can damage relationships, reputations, and self-respect. silence creates space. It allows emotions to settle, clarity to emerge, and dignity to remain intact. There are moments when people are not seeking understanding. They are seeking reaction. They want control over your emotions. They want to pull you into chaos, drama, or unnecessary conflict. In these moments, silence becomes a boundary. It sends a clear message without saying a word. I refuse to give my peace away. This kind of silence disarms negativity. It removes fuel from the fire and leaves chaos with nowhere to land. Silence is especially powerful when you are dealing with disrespect, gossip, or provocation. Explaining yourself to someone who has already decided to misunderstand you is exhausting and pointless. Defending your character to someone committed to seeing you negatively drains your energy. Silence preserves your strength. It allows your actions, consistency, and integrity to speak louder than any argument ever could. There is also silence needed during emotional storms. When anger rises, when hurt feels fresh, when disappointment cuts deep, silence prevents damage. It keeps you from saying things you cannot take back. It gives you time to process emotions, instead of being ruled by them. Emotional maturity is not about suppressing feelings. It is about choosing the right time and the right way to express them. Silence gives you that choice. Another powerful aspect of silence is self-respect. When you stop over-explaining, over-sharing, and over-defending, you send a signal that you trust yourself. You no longer seek validation from every voice around you. You understand that your worth does not require constant explanation. This quiet confidence commands respect in ways loud words never can. Silence also strengthens your inner peace. The less you engage in unnecessary conflict, the more mental clarity you gain. Your mind becomes calmer. Your emotions become steadier. You begin responding thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. This shift transforms not just how others experience you, but how you experience yourself. It's important to understand that silence is not avoidance. It is not fear. It is discernment. You are not silencing your truth. You are choosing the right moment, the right audience, and the right purpose for your words. There is power in knowing when to speak, but there is mastery in knowing when not to. When your peace is at risk, silence protects your energy, your dignity, and your emotional well-being. It allows you to rise above situations that would otherwise pull you down. It keeps you grounded, centered, and aligned with who you are becoming. In a world that constantly demands reaction, choosing silence is a radical act of self-control. It shows strength without aggression, confidence without noise, and wisdom without explanation. Silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes your shield, and when you protect your peace, you protect your future. Silence is not empty. Silence is powerful. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom refined through experience. In a world that rewards noise, reaction, and constant explanation, choosing silence is an act of strength. It is the decision to protect your energy, your dignity, and your peace. Not every situation deserves your voice, your defense, or your emotional investment. When you remain silent in moments of anger, disrespect, jealousy, ignorance, manipulation, or unnecessary conflict, you reclaim control over yourself. You stop leaking power into places that were never meant to hold it. You allow clarity to replace chaos and calm to replace regret. Silence teaches you discernment. It helps you listen more deeply, see more clearly, and respond more intentionally. It allows time to reveal truth, intentions, and outcomes without forcing explanations. Often, what you don't say protects you more than anything you could ever explain. Remember this: the loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. Strength shows up in restraint. Wisdom shows up in patience. Confidence shows up when you no longer feel the need to prove yourself. So choose silence not as avoidance, but as mastery. Choose silence not out of fear, but out of self-respect. Choose silence when speaking would cost you your peace. Because when you learn when to stay silent, you learn how to stay powerful.